Hey everyone, this is Matt. Welcome back to Touchgrass Gardening. Today we're going to be talking about my favorite evergreen ornamental tree. That is the Mastic tree. So as you can see, it has beautiful, lush, ornamental look, and it looks like this year-round. So it's not just, now we're filming in February, so it's actually the worst time of the year for how everything looks. And you can see that this one looks good. But what I really want to highlight is that it's easy to grow. This is landscape rock, alkaline soil. I have clay soil. This comes from the Mediterranean, so it likes hot and dry. And in Arizona, we have plenty of that. It's in full sun, so it gets blasted all day, and it still looks like this even in the summer. And so this is a really underseen tree for a lot of hot and dry climates, and I'd like to correct that because I just think it's so beautiful. And part of the reason that you don't see a lot of it is because it doesn't get that big, which I actually think is an advantage for certain parts of your yard, like where we are. I don't like putting huge trees right next to my house because if we have a monsoon or wind, it'll fall over. And this one only gets to about 15 to 20 feet tall and about 25 feet wide. So it's actually wider than it is tall. And all throughout, it has a very uniform look. You have to shape it occasionally, like I'll kind of cut it here and there where it gets a little out of control. But it does have a fairly uniform look. It's not going to be branching all over the place like a eucalyptus tree, another evergreen that you see commonly here. But it's much more of an ornamental look. And it also has a very unique history and usage, which if you come in closer here, you can see with the sap that comes off the tree. And this is something that's cited throughout history is the sap or resin of the mastic tree. And you can see right now it's kind of dried up a little bit. It doesn't really secrete that much in winter. In the summer there's more of it, and there's also more of it when you trim the tree. But this has been referred to as the miracle tear. It is used for, medicinal purposes such as correcting stomach ailments. I read an interesting story that there were Roman emperors that actually used it in their harems, where they would give it to their the women in their harems for fresh breath. So it was something that is used for a lot of different purposes, and is an interesting story because I first thought when I saw all this sap here that there's something wrong with my tree. And when I did more research, I realized this is actually considered a beneficial thing of this tree, and is also a very interesting story about the tree. So I love trees in my yard that have a story. And so with this mastic tree, you're really going to get both that beautiful look and an interesting story that you can tell people. This tree often has a little bit of lateral movement in the initial trunk. If you look at photos online of the orchards in Greece of the mastic tree, it's often tilted. And so you may want to support it slightly with a stick like this and this support. So that would be my suggestion once it gets a little bit bigger, is that you have a support for this mastic tree, because I think it does tend to lean a little bit, which many think is a positive because it's easier to access the sap when it's leaning. So that's the sap and the history behind it. I think just overall, this tree is a perfect type of tree that you want to have, say, pulling up into your driveway. That's where I have it, next to the driveway, because it's always going to be green all year. It's very hardy, like I said, and then it has a story. So you pull in with a friend and like, what's that tree? You have your other friends that are into trees too, and you don't often see this tree, especially here in Arizona. They were brought from Europe into Mexico, and then now they've made their way into the US a little bit, but not that much. But there are a few nurseries that will carry them. And so if you go to one of them, ask for the mastic tree and see if you can find it, because I think it's a tree that's really well worth planting. Now maybe the best thing about this mastic tree is how good it is at being used for indoor cuttings. So you cut a piece of the tree, put it in a pot, put it indoors, it stays for months. And most things will die within a week or two, but this mastic tree has this ability to just remain looking nice for a long time. And so I'm gonna do a compare for you with a live cutting that I'll just cut right now, compared to something that's been in a pot for a month. So I'll just pick one of these here. Oh, it rained last night, so I just got a shower. But you can see it looks really nice in a pot. Like, this is something that, you know, we just sometimes will cut different trees in the yard and put it in a pot, see how it looks. And I found this mastic tree to be maybe the nicest looking of all the trees in our yard in a pot, because like I said, it's an ornamental tree. But the addition of it being able to stay green and nice looking for weeks to months is something that is pretty rare. Like normally I only see that in like a eucalyptus type tree, but this mastic tree does it as well. And so I'll show you compare with something that's been in a pot for, you know, a couple months. And you can see that it's really not that different looking. Yeah, the leaves look a little bit less fresh. They're a little bit dried out. Like if you want to, you could just flick them off and they're dry, but they still look good. And unless you're like gonna be running into it, it's pretty easy to just keep like this for months. And so I really think this mastic tree has so many interesting and cool usages, stories, that it's just really a tree that you should think about planting. So there's another additional thing about mastic. I hope you liked this video, and please let me know what you think, or if you have a mastic tree, what you think about the mastic tree. Like this video and subscribe. Thank you.